What year did you graduate from UDC?
So I actually am not an alum, but I will be.
She's enrolled.
Yes.
One semester already.
I will, no, I finished in December.
That's what I'm saying.
Oh.
One semester is
Where are
already
you at?
Semester. How far? I'm getting my MBA.
Where?
Here, at UDC.
Is that okay?
So, soon enough, I will be an alum too. Soon enough.
You only have to do the semester.
Well, hello, baby boy. Oh, God, you're heavy. Oh, God, this is so solid.
He looked like a little thing.
Look, y'all be 5 kisses away.
I'm breathless.
Y'all be 5 kisses away.
Uh-oh.
Forget kindergarten. Why?
What this is? I never heard you about my anger. I never heard that.
But that class is called anger management. They always have a coffee called TCAS. I deal with PTSD, that's pretty much everything is volunteer. No, I'm not doing that. I tore tendon in my leg. And the VA and the civilian, you have this thing called chest.
You look like a bird.
Take a 3-second look. There's a terrorist strawberry.
He didn't eat me. Huh? It's vegetarian.
That's a good way to do it.
He's so soft. Yeah, you know. You know what? Roasted right there. That's what we end up.
Somebody's gonna snip him with it.
You gonna smell the Mickey going down. Somebody's cookout. Somebody's festival. God, that still smells good. I ain't never smelled that at all. Oh, you gonna be all.
Just one concept.
And I'm done, you know, but I'm gonna be here, you know, follow me, I'm still back.
So I don't even say, it's not like the whole school. And I see all those kinds of people have the same serious government because you have to suffer. And if you don't start, you have 6 black gentlemen. And I ain't talking about shit. I'm talking about pasta and the rice. And none of that is, they don't get the animals.
So, on there are the watches. Yeah. So we keep it, but I put it on there. And I put it on the and this one has an it's our first prize. We're giving students that can 50 some level of this year, we're inviting minor teachers living alone. Especially
we're gonna wait for you to come back. Anybody have a bio? I was telling you the same thing. Call me. You got mine.
And that's something that I'm looking forward to mention.
Please send me your information. And
Yeah, historically, I always had boxing tickets.
I may not remember your name, but I remember your face.
But we don't advertise them until the week of graduation. That's the same thing.
Black don't crack, damn it. Get paid with white people get paid with and Botox injections and all that other stuff. Didn't you see the TV show Nip and Tuck from Danny and South Florida? I'm getting people in this Orlando, right? I'm out to Miami for the National Association of Black Journalists to make August the 7th to the 9th. I'm going to Key West for the Westwater room. And they wear extensions like I did for 4th of July. What's up, Superman? Hey,
Okay, well, what would you need though?
Well, because I was gonna say, I can just pull it up on my phone to watch the meeting.
Oh,
and
okay,
ask
that's
questions. Yeah, but I can just pull it up on my phone up there.
I've been hungry all morning. I've been moving. I said, come on, oh, that's one? That's it? Yeah. And he designed the jacket, or his son did, and now we're going to try and athlete, coaches, and administrators.
Testing. All right, good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
My name is Mia Williams. I am an UDC alum from class of 2016 and will be a double alum in 2019 coming up in a couple of weeks. First, I wanted to say welcome you all to our UDCNAS General Body Meeting. And at this moment, I hereby make a motion to adopt the agenda for today. Second, all in favor of adopting the agenda, please say aye. Aye. All opposed? Perfect. Thank you. The agenda is now officially adopted.
hello everyone, good morning, or good afternoon rather, excuse me. I want to kick us off today just briefly to show you the agenda. For all the folks who are joining us online, thank you. If you have any questions, please do know that you can use the chat section, and I'll take a few minutes once we get started and start going through some of those to make sure that if you have any questions that we're answering those. All right. So just really quick, I wanted to give kind of an Office of Alumni Affairs update. This is also inclusive of some of the things going on within the UDC Foundation. But we, all of last week, hosted UDC First Choice, which was the name for our Spring Week of Giving campaign. On Thursday, so far, the foundation had raised in gifts and pledges $41,875. So very, very successful week of giving. This is the second year that we have done that week of giving. And it is open for people to donate to anything on campus that they're interested in. So it's not an exclusive fund that we're raising money for, so the money does not go exclusively to scholarships. When you go online to support the foundation, you can support a number of scholarships, programs. You can even click and give to the UDCNAS online. So just in case anyone has questions about that, the goal of this event is to pare it down into what a lot of universities do as a day of giving campaign. And so that's our goal, but since we had never ever done a campaign like this before, we wanted to just test out a week. Next year, President Mason wants to get UDC TV involved, and so there is talk of potentially growing the event to include like a telethon. So we would be inviting some alum to maybe come in and help do calls out to folks. We would also probably have like celebrity calling with some of our chiefs, some of our really popular professors, etc. So more to come on that. Also, this month at UDC, so that is a monthly email that we send out that has a list of all of the upcoming events on campus. Now, it is not 100% inclusive. So I want to skip down really quickly to just say where to find alumni information, but also more information on things going on campus. So give me a sec. 1 second, I'm gonna pull up the website. So this is our UDC website here. But if you scroll down the page, and you click calendar, so here it pops up immediately 3 to 4 days worth of events in a list, but if you scroll to the bottom and click see all, it brings you to a calendar. And on this calendar, you have access to see every single event going on at the university. So if you're ever interested in what's going on, this is going to be the best place to come and find that information online for yourself. You can always call the office and let us know if you have questions about any events. Sometimes people question whether or not an event is open maybe to the public, or if it's a private event or a closed event, if it has tickets, etc. being sold. Typically though, you can click on it and information about the event pops up in here anyway, and a lot of the times it will have a point of contact for that event. But again, if you ever have questions, please always don't hesitate to contact the office and I can get more information for you. So while we're on this, I want to just quickly show you the calendar is a really great place to find out what's going on campus, but it's also a great place to know about upcoming alumni events. We are working on, so I'll show you today. You see our meeting is listed here at 1 p.m. today, and it says where the meeting is, etc. So this is one sure place where you can begin to find and locate alumni information on the website. You can also find it at the bottom of the page. There is a scrolling new, so you'll see that our meeting is also listed here. So UDCNAS meeting live on YouTube, so you can click this as well. And this shows you what you can watch the meeting, so you can also access the meeting from this link. So if I hit play, that's me, that's there. Because it is live. But you can also come up here and click on alumni. Now, I'm going to tell you right now, this page doesn't have a lot of information on it. And this is because we just went through a website migration about a month ago, and so we're working on all new content for the page. You'll see in here bylaw revision. This was the first note that we did add, and this was when we were going through the revision process, or when we rather started the revision process. And so this was where you could go and get all of your copies of your bylaws, your proposed changes worksheet. This was a memo from our attorneys that we reviewed at the last meeting. We're working on also creating a catalog on the website so that you can find what we will officially resume doing meeting minutes and things like that, so that folks have access to all of that information. But we'll also have listed here all of our governing documents, so not just the bylaws for the organization, but we'll create links for the DCMR and the DC Nonprofit Code, just so when we talk about different things or people have questions about why are we functioning or doing this or that, sometimes it's because of official governing documents. And so we want to create a space on the website where you can easily find and access those documents on your own, so that you're able to quickly have a point of reference. So that's very briefly, let me get back to this PowerPoint. That's very briefly where you can find alumni information on the university's website. So again, just as a quick note, that this month at UDC, that is an email that we send out monthly. So if you are not receiving that email, please do let me know. I want to make sure that we have your correct email address and that we're sending that out to you. The reason also that I showed you where you can find out this information is because we've received some comments, questions, concerns about the fact that we don't mail out to people, like historically I've been told that we have. That is in large part due to cost. With the rise in postage and with the rise in preparing pieces, it's unfortunately something that we're just not able to afford to do right now. But we've also started trying to print up monthly calendars, or excuse me, quarterly calendars This one starts April the 10th and goes all the way up to July the 20th, so that this is a take-home piece that you have from the meetings to, again, try to help be able to keep up with events. But again, as I mentioned already, you can always call the office and ask if you think you may have missed something, if you're questioning if something is coming up that you feel like you should be aware of, etc. Please don't ever hesitate to contact the office. And eventually, I do hope we will get back to a point where we are able to mail things like that out, because we want to make sure our alum, especially those who don't live in the district, are getting access to information like that well in advance, so that they're able to plan and prepare to be here with us. So for example, we will this year do a mailer out to our alum for save the date for homecoming. We also just did mail invitations to the 50th reunion class, so that they're aware of their upcoming reunion. So we're bringing back the Golden Jubilee. That event had, over the last few years, that event had been a part of the honorary degree reception, and so we have moved it now. It is its own separate event again, and we're actually going to kick off the weekend on that Friday night with a private event for those that reunion year. So, any questions so far? No? Okay. Well, really quickly, I just want to kind of do our year-end review. For those of you who may not know, that our fiscal year technically begins in October, and so in March, we are actually 6 months into the fiscal year, so we're at the halfway mark right now. But some of what I'm going to go over that we have accomplished in the office started probably last summer. So it's a bit more of a full year, calendar year review versus our true fiscal year. So I'm just going to call off a couple of things. Within Alumni Communications, we started we implemented a monthly events calendar to go out via email. That's in this month at UDC. We've developed an ongoing social media campaign to include weekly posts. We will next year be adding a newsletter that will start going out to alum that will include specific alumni information. I know that the Flame used to be the alumni magazine, and so we're going to bring back a smaller, more condensed version of the Flame, again, until we're able to bring that full piece back. The Flame, though, was replaced with the University of the District of Columbia University magazine. So that was also one part there, but we want to bring something back that's got a bit more alumni information on it, and a place for folks to post announcements like birthdays, birth announcements, congratulations, things like that, that sometimes people bring up in the meeting. So we want to have that as an opportunity as well. For events, we increased the weekend of events for homecoming, including reunion events for 5, 10, 15, 20, and 25. Those events were not as successful this year, and so we're going to be looking at this summer, how can we make them more successful as we move forward. Reunions is something that a lot of people consistently ask me about, but the biggest thing obviously is strong alumni participation and interest in hosting a reunion. We're also though going to be looking at reunions in a slightly different way. So for example, Trustee Scott is with us today, and I know he is a past football player of the university, and so we're looking at bringing back, for example, bringing back past football players for a football reunion. So we're also going to think about it in that way instead of just specifically looking only at class years for reunion events. We're reinstating the Golden Jubilee, so again, the goal there is to just bring back and continue to grow that into a nice weekend of events, and eventually build out into a spring reunions weekend where we would invite not just the 50th reunion class, but it would be a weekend to honor and recognize their reunion year. We also have created a calendar of specific society events. So I hope some of you have been noticing we had a more casual kind of happy hour event last month. We're looking at doing more of those because we want to make sure that we're doing events that are kind of inclusive. I hope all of you will save the date. In August, we will be hosting an alumni picnic. So Mr. Scott is also leading that event, so he just got a big smile on his face. I know he's working hard. So we're really excited about trying to bring back more events and more opportunities to engage that aren't just formal meetings where we can come and sit in here and update like this. In addition to that, that, with the office specifically, we have developed a direct mail calendar that does include 4 mail solicitations a year. So we're going to obviously continue to look at growing that. We increased our financial goal and have now exceeded that goal for the Week of Giving campaign. So the goal this year was actually to raise $16,000, and we actually, like I mentioned, we raised over $40,000 this year. We also, with the alumni database, so this is another question that I get a lot about alumni contact information, because I know that when we did a mailing a few years ago, tons and tons and tons of mail came back. We attacked this from a couple of different angles. Number one, we're going through a process right now in our database where we are adding back in properly alumni graduation information. Believe it or not, that information was not appropriately entered into the database, and so we're working on getting all of that information back in there so that we can also begin to communicate with you based on maybe what your specific interest may be. So for example, if you graduated from the School of Engineering, you may be interested in an engineering conference that's coming up, and so we want to be able to better identify you so that we can let you know specifically about events like that. So that's kind of an example. We also want to begin to be able to talk to some of our predecessor institutions a little bit more specifically. So for example, DC Teachers College alum, sometimes the information that they're interested in is a little different, and the way we communicate with them is a little bit different from the way we communicate with the larger UDC population. So again, just wanting to make sure that we're very clear on who you are as alumni. One second. So that's the first thing. We've also have partnered with a company called Import-O-Matics to help us import data. So when you come to the meetings and you do the sign-in sheet and you enter in your email address and things like that, all that information is being entered into the database so that we can better keep track of it. We're moving to, once we have an election and we put officers, et cetera, in place, those officers will have access to that database so that we're not having the society duplicate efforts in trying to pay for their own database. I know that that was something that was historically done, and so one of the things is making sure that they're granted access to the database that already exists, to make it a little bit easier for the society leadership to have access to information to be able to talk to alumni as well. One other thing that we did, I know some of you ordered or participated in our alumni directory, so that's another really great opportunity for us to speak directly to you as alum to collect and update your contact information. But again, always encourage people, if you move, if you change your telephone number, your email address, etc., please let me know, because again, we really want to be able to make sure that we're keeping in touch with you. So those are the big things that we've done with data. We also just partnered with a new research organization called Hanover. Again, this is the foundation that's partnered with them to collect, again, additional information, like where do you work, what do you do for a living, information like that, again, just so we can try to build out complete records. We're also trying to collect information on your families. This is not to be shared at all with the public, but this is so that we can also begin to get an idea of legacy families. So we have often, Nina, who opened this up today, her mother is an alum, and so it's good information for us to know that, because again, we can start to sometimes build programming around the fact that we know that your mother and your grandmother and your sister and your uncles and your, that your whole family is a UDC family. So we want to start tracking that information as well. But again, let me just always say, never ever share your information. The only people who actually have access to it on campus currently are myself, the Vice President of Advancement, our Major Gift Officer, and John Smith, who has newly joined our team, and then Ms. Edna King, who I believe all of you are familiar with, who does our gift processing. So we're it. Anyone moving forward from the society leadership, we will always have confidentiality agreements, et cetera, signed, because we want to make sure that you feel comfortable and confident that your information is not being shared or being used inappropriately. You also always have the option, if you feel like you're getting too many emails from us, you can always opt out of those. So, I know you had a question.
Two questions. First is the institution from like 1851. So, the concept, my bachelor's degrees are actually my major things. We're talking about data mining. We need to pull up okay, all the kids that came to UDC from HB Woodson, all the kids that came to UDC from Coolidge, or any other high school here? That's one question. Second question is,
So to answer that question really quickly, so the folks online, he's asking if we're able to track data like where did you go to high school and be able to source that information. So to answer that question, some of it, yes. What we're able to access is typically what is listed publicly. Now, when we partner with companies like this, we are still paying them to help source that data. The easiest way for us to keep track of and collect data is obviously if you self-report, but if you do self-report that data, then we absolutely track it, because the more data we have, the better that I know you and the better I can begin to predict how to communicate with you.
okay, now the second question is, you mentioned the alumni directory, which I've gotten a couple of emails about it. How far back does that go? Obviously not going to be 51.
So we send them our entire database of 42,000 living alumni. That is inclusive of alumni going back, I want to say to 1940 that are living. So the records do go all the way, well, no, let me take that back. Before the internet, all the records were on paper documents. So I want to say that IRAD, and I will double check this, their paper records between them and the archive go back to the 1930s. Now, what has been documented online only goes back to about 1940. But we do have the information. So for example, we get calls from people who want to, they don't remember when they graduated and they want us to verify the information, and we are able to do it. But because they were paper records, some of those older classes, the data isn't as good. And that's just simply because things over the years have been lost or misplaced. It's also very, very difficult to track down those alum, because what we captured back then was obviously where you lived when you applied to the university in 1941. Well, you probably moved. And so what happened is over the years that information was not updated. So when it got pushed into our database, which was why we had the issue all those years ago with all the mail coming back, was because that information had never ever been updated. So we were mailing in some cases to addresses that we had had on record from the 1940s, the 1950s. And so it was just bad data. So, but it's a constant process, and it becomes harder and harder once you lose alum in that way to keep track of their information.
Last part of the question. My dad died in 2003. I'm still getting mail from UDC. Remember, I've called this place about 6 times.
So I need you to bring me a piece of mail that you've received, because I can tell you in my database, he's not getting mail, and he has not received any mail for about 3 years from alumni. So if you're getting mail from someplace else, I need to be able to see it so I can try to figure out who it came from.
I have a concern, you might say. Our university is not that old. It doesn't date back to 1940 or whatever, the University of DC. Are you talking about the people from, the students from DC minors?
Yes.
And also from Washington Technical Institute?
Yes.
So why is that important? Explain to me, why is it important that the information on those people from the 3 colleges that emerged, why is that so important?
Because they're still,
Because they're not UDC. They're not UDC, they're the individual.
so the reason it's important,
In addition to that, I see where Fellow City College is being omitted, period, from what I can see. I graduated from the University of DC, but I was a student at Fellow City College, and it seems like we're being omitted from the history, and that's very disturbing. That's very, very disturbing to me, a person
person who came out of Federal City College with all these wonderful professors that we had, inner city college that was affordable for people like me. That's very disturbing.
So to answer your question, why is it important? Because as far as the Office of Alumni Affairs is concerned, they are alum of this institution because the universities merged. Now, with that in mind, what we are working on is looking at how do we continue to pay homage to our predecessor institutions. Without DC Teachers College, without Minor Teachers College, without Wilson Teachers College, without Federal City, without Washington Tech, there would be no UDC. And so it's very important that we...
I don't know why we're being dismissed.
And
we are.
I will say this, a big part of the problem that we had up until, I can't speak on what happened over a year ago because I wasn't at the institution.
Right.
So what I can say is now, one of the things we're working on and why getting this graduation information is so important is to know what institution you actually graduated from, because we didn't have the data. The data, your name is listed in my database, and all it might say next to your name is that you graduated, and I'm just guessing, in 2019. But it doesn't tell me what institution that you actually attended. And because some of the institutions overlap, it's important to us to know what institution you went to so that we can keep track of that. So I didn't want to get ahead of myself, but one of the reunions and one of the things that we're considering is affinity groups for those predecessor institutions and or reunions specifically for those predecessor institutions. Because I think it's very important to pay homage to the university that you went to, because the college, yes, that you went to, because it isn't specifically the University of the District of Columbia. And I know that your history, your relationship to the university is a little bit different. And I say university, and speaking about your relationship to UDC is a little bit different because you did, but others.
All of us are different because you have our predecessors from DC Minus, you have Federal City College, and you have Washington Technical Institute. It's very, very disturbing that it seems that you're reaching back to 1940 or whatever to those folks who graduated from those colleges that I just mentioned. UDC, University of DC, was a merger of all these colleges. Why waste money and time collecting data from these universities colleges that weren't a part of the University of DC?
Well, because
and if you're going to do that, then why not include Federal City College in the history? I read the welcome speech by the Esquire, I can't remember his name, Board of Trustees president. That was very disturbing because they promptly pushed DC teachers or minor colleges up, dismissed, omitted Washington Technical Institute and Federal City College, and we were the backbone of that college. The University of DC, Federal City College being the liberal arts, Washington Technical Institute being the technical part, and then you had DC Minors and educational part. It's very disturbing for me. To come here, to be an alum of UDC, but when the welcome speech was done at the convocation that we had, no mentioning of Federal City College.
And to that specific incident, I can't speak. I can't speak to that.
That person who never wrote that speech, he needs to look at our history.
Exactly.
That person, and I would tell him to his face, the president of the what do they call it? The Board of Trustees.
Yes.
But he's the one who wrote the speech. I am offended. I
just want to ask one question. Do you all still have the yearbooks? I came out of Federal City College too. I was in the chart class, and I asked before, at one of the earlier gatherings, I asked, why don't you have sweatshirts that have Federal City College? I was a cheerleader and I still have mine. And we were a well-established college. We had amazing professors and students and people who attended that school. Lots of teachers in Washington today came out of Federal City College.
Thank you.
So I will.
Do you have yearbooks from there?
So for Federal City, and I'm coming to you, Trustee Scott. Some yearbooks do exist. You
I
can.
have one if you want.
Okay. Oh well, I would love it if you want to give it to me. I do know that the university archivist does have them because we actually just requested them when we started preparing for this reunion to make sure that we could get photos from the years that those students were at the university, but also so that we could verify the database list that we had based on what was in the actual yearbook. Because we compared every piece of paper that we had access to make sure that we had accurate lists. Now, we have heard you on asking for the t-shirts. I'm very excited to announce that starting with the 50th reunion this year, we will have for the first time in many years, DC Teachers College t-shirts. And at homecoming this year, we will have Federal City, Washington Tech, and we will also do a throwback UDC shirt from when the logo used to be in that circle that will be available for purchase. So we have absolutely heard people who want to represent their institution and out of the Office of Alumni Affairs. I say that because you will not be able to purchase them in the bookstore, but we will make those t-shirts available. We will begin to prepare. We will start off with just t-shirts, and based on demand, we will potentially look at the cost of having other items made.
I was just going to ask this last question. I've read, like you, I've read that the woman who started minor teacher college is being given, credit for starting University of District of Columbia. That's just not true. And that is not for us to stand by and say, oh, it's just not true, because the people who were at Federal City College, and I just don't know all the people at Washington Tech, but I know there was amazing people who started the groundswell of this whole idea of Federal City College. That's where it started. And if I know people who went to minor college, and I know that I was accepted there, but I decided to go to Federal City College because of how they wanted all of us, and the scholarships they wanted to give us, the jobs. They were amazing. And I would love to know where even some of the people who were there, the guy who was in charge of the teacher education, amazing. They were amazing people, and that's who we need to give credit to. We don't need one person, not one person, to receive credit for starting this amazing groundswell that happened in Washington, D.C. when Federal City College opened its doors, of which I was a recipient. I even got a scholarship through Ford Foundation. I went and studied in California at the California Institute of Technology for 6 months with 7 more people from Federal City College. They found things for us to do, and those people need to be recognized. It was an amazing place to be.
No,
That's why I'm back here now.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Especially in our history.
I'm going to go to Trustee Scott because he has been waiting. Yes, sir.
Well, I just want to say, number one, I was a Panther.
We were
Okay.
Panthers, exactly.
And I was there during the merger, okay? And I understand the love, but we're still one at this point. If you read the history of the 3 institutions, there's a book. And it does give credit to all 3 institutions. But when you talk about taking the oldest university, which is 1851, you have to give credence to whoever that oldest institution was at the time. We're still one. I'm so glad that the history, if you read the history, it covers everything you're talking about. Everything you're talking about. And one thing that Ms. Alexander did forget, the development department
has a paper program where you can get your name put on any section of the plaza in the college that you came out of. So there's a Federal City section, there's a UDC section, there's a section for the law school, Antioch Law School, there's a section for the Wilson Building. So you can be recognized any kind of way you want to as an alumnus from any of the preparatory institutes.
That's not the
What,
problem.
very quickly, just for the benefit of the
That's
people
not the
online, we're
problem.
having a discussion regarding paying homage to some of the predecessor institutions. So just for the benefit of the folks online who cannot hear the conversation. Quickly, I'm going to go to trustee,
It's built on a lie.
Excuse me.
That is a lie.
Excuse me.
That welcome speech is a lie. And that's what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about UD's, Federal City's name being here, DC, I'm talking about the Board of Trustees who did the welcome speech, who admitted the history of Federal City College as part of the welcome speech, and that's what it's about for me. I understand what you're saying, and I support what you're saying. Okay, and I'm very emotional, I'm very upset about it, and we need to do something about it. Our history is important. Stop allowing the system or whomever to rob us of our history. This is our history, and we should be part of the history of the making of the University of DC. And on that, I quit. I stopped. I rest my case. Thank you.
I just wanted to say, Trustee Jerome Shelton, in 2010 when I came on the board, I was recruited by members of Federal City and the DC teachers to become part of the university's alumni society. We have been trying since 2010 and before, to incorporate every facet of our history and continue. This effort to solidify the Alumni Society is designed to include all of us. The university, in its economic throes, has underfunded the Department of Alumni Affairs for more than 40 years. Now, we are finally getting back to the point where we have at least one person dedicated to alumni. And we're trying to pull all of the alum together to make the university serve us. As to what the president of the university said or didn't say, I can't speak to, but I do know they didn't live the history like we did. And when you don't live the history, you tend to make gaps in public statements, not because you meant to, but because you caught up in the morning and you really don't understand. And so that you understand, the president of the university was one meeting we had as a board when he first came on, is reading a script. And I had to explain to him that you have to mention all of us. And he said, it's written right here, I just skipped over it. I said, but you can't. And he hasn't, the president of the university hasn't slipped since. The board president speaks maybe once or twice a year. And he does not know the history. But he's been here for close to 10 years trying to get this university up to the best that it can be. And he's now moved from a trustee to president. And he may have missed the history, but it's because he doesn't live it. He's volunteered at it, and he's here to represent the best of all of us. But we need you to be involved in the Alumni Society. We need you to pull us all together. Now, our job is to make a society that makes it so powerful that the school has to listen to our desires, that we hire an alum to be president, that we hire an alum to be president of the Board of Trustees, that we have a Board of Trustees that is not appointed by non-graduates, but appointed by us. But we haven't got there. Now, this is our second or third attempt to build an alumni society. Please don't get distracted by the goal. The idea is for us to have an organization that helps us influence the service to citizens of the District of Columbia education, not forgetting where we came from, and being available to assist all as we go to where we're going. Now, and again,
We are trying. Everything we do is meant to be inclusive. And I've sat through this with every group to be inclusive of everybody who shows and everybody who's working. Please come, keep an eye on the prize, keep an eye on the purpose, and let's do it together. Now remember, 40 years of keeping us apart because nobody wanted DC residents, DC people to be in charge. And we're the best chance we have to begin to control whatever strength we can build. And we are massive. When she says 44,000 alum, they're out there, but they want to be proud.
And we want them in this room.
And they don't have the money. There's no real money. They're making their own money by these drives, by these campaigns. When we talk about shirts, we always talk about shirts for everybody. It's no point in doing an alumni effort if you don't support every one of our institutions. And we're all aware of that. We're well aware of it, but we need your support to get this bylaws approved, this process approved, and we need to keep going in that direction. The bylaws, whether we are 100% with them or not, need to be approved so that we can either correct them as we go along or use them to be successful. And the idea is the longer we wait to approve the bylaws, the longer it keeps us unorganized. And I know that's difficult because some people have real questions, but we're here all the time, and bylaws, by law, can be corrected.
And let me also offer this as well. The Office of Alumni Affairs is a staff of one. Everyone else that is helping us is volunteering their time. But I am always open if people want to come in and say, I know that I've got 6 friends from Federal City College and we want to have a lunch. And can we start doing it, I can't say every month, but I want to help put that together. We have received invitations. The president of the university has gotten invitations to events before from alumni, and every time I get them or I'm notified of them, if I know, I always reach out to those people. How can the university help? Do you want us to promote your event? Now, obviously, we cannot do every single thing, but I'm here to have productive conversations to say, what can we do? We know it's a problem. We already know that. But what can we do to improve it? How can we engage those people? We don't want to host and pay for, like we did last year with homecoming, of reunion events that no one comes to. Because what happens also in those situations is the university stops financially supporting those events. Because now we're just losing money. Yes, ma'am.
There's so many issues on the floor we're talking about. But something that you're saying, first I tell everybody, history is important. It is so important. Because I think people need to understand 2 things, like it or not. Our status is as an HBCU is with mine. It's not with the other schools. Sorry. Let's start there. That's true. Okay. So either you're gonna be an HBCU or you're not. And if you want that HBCU status, mine is the lead. That's where they took it from. It ain't fiction, it's reality. That's number 1. Number 2, the reason they can't move us from this space and space where we are has to do with that connection with some laws of also being intertwined with that HBCU. Okay? So sometimes wanting to be recognized with that independence, and I don't mean no harm, if this had just been Federal City, without the HBCU status, I'm just saying, I'm not about the nuts and bolts of this. It will be moved. I hear what you're saying. I'm going to agree with you on when people don't know some things, this unfortunately is what happens. But that is happening all around this city, not only with UDC, okay? It happens in every part, every branch of our district government. It happens with every part, every branch of what's going on in our school system. So that is a universal problem of lack of knowledge because they don't know and they're not there. Now I'm going to move from that because I want this to stay at HBCU. And I want them because, you know, Adrian Fenty tried to move us.
That's correct. No, it was
Anthony Williams. Anthony Williams tried to move us. Then somebody told him, don't put us over at St. Edith. I'm gonna say, no, I'm just saying, I'm not about that, I'm about the law. You're not the law. The law moved. The law told him, look, you can't do it. And Anthony Williams, give him a minute, is a lawyer. Believe me, if he thought he could have got around it, he would have. So I'm saying, if he had had his way, if the law had not been so ingrained, our new place would have been across the river. Not that it's bad, but I also like the fact that we take up space on this city that's being heavily gentrified, and we on Connecticut Avenue. Don't ever get it twisted. Now, the other piece I want to add to that is you're talking about the t-shirt. I'm going to move on to something a little bit more fun. You're talking about the t-shirts. My only question is, what has happened to a t-shirt, and I'm just throwing this at you, a t-shirt that is designed well enough to give us all of the representation of the institutions that make up this university. I mean, but prominently designed in such a way that, you know, you have a tree, it's like a family tree. You got your root, but from there, from grandparents, you move on into, somebody might be a this, somebody might be a that. Having a design more inclusive, because what you're talking about, a design that gives everybody their own separate t-shirt, which to me goes back to us being too separated again. No. Okay, but I'm just saying, I would love to see a t-shirt that says how we go and the order and the whole founding of each one. Okay? And putting it into that perspective so we can all walk around proud with the UDC t-shirt. Because mine, DC teachers, and most people I hope know this, became DC teachers because of the end of segregation. It didn't become DC teachers just by way of. When they ended segregation in 1954, the all-white Wilson had to come together with the all-black minor, and they called it DC teachers. So I don't want them to ever feel left out either. My thing is, and I'm gonna move to my next point. You were talking about some of the older people. That history is a major piece in recognition and how people see you. And my thing is, you were talking about an event for during the homecoming period.
Yes.
There's some way that the president of this institution, okay, should look at having a special gathering with just the older, you know, to me, somebody who's 90 years old now and went to college, I don't care where they went, and they black, I am so proud of them, okay? And the only reason maybe they didn't go to Washington Tech, it didn't exist. Maybe the only reason they didn't go to Federal City because it didn't exist. But the school, I'm just saying, no, I understand what you're saying about what they said.
I'm talking about our history and
I'm going to interject briefly because I want to your point. So one of the things that we did work on, and the original design just wasn't great, was we actually took the flame and put all of the seals from the predecessor institutions inside.
Okay.
But it wasn't like no one liked it.
Keep working at it.
Exactly.
Keep working
exactly.
at it.
So that you
You're
understand, I did the
absolutely
same
right.
thing for a parking frame for your vehicle, and the problem is we have more letters, you know, UDC, Federal City, you gotta say it so people who don't speak the language know what they say. And so when you try to put that in a conventional format, and the thing that I've always thought of, it has to be a pyramid.
Yeah.
You know, starting with and working its way up, because everything else you don't have enough room for the word.
But these T-shirts that we are doing with DC Teachers College, the actual design of the shirt is it will have the DC Teachers College seal on the front, and on the back of the T-shirt it will have the university of it will list the name of the school, DC Teachers College, the years that it existed, and across the bottom of the shirt, so across the bottom of your T-shirt here, it will have the University of the District of the Columbia logo, and what will be our new kind of rollout tagline that we hope people like is once a Firebird, always a Firebird, to kind of begin to put together sort of a co-branded. But we are absolutely working on, and the goal was to have it last homecoming, but we just couldn't get the design together, and then we couldn't get the shirts printed in time. So that's why we said we're going to roll them out this year, starting with DC Teachers College, and then we're going to do the rest.
That's a unifying piece.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. Did you have a question, Seth?
I don't have a question, I was gonna make a statement. I'm a former president of the alumni, and I've been away for a while, but the main point that I wanted to make, in a meeting like this, everybody has a lot of important things to say. Is there a record of what we're doing in here so we don't lose that? Because sometimes in meetings like this, and I'm not pointing fingers, people kind of get into me, and we lose the essence. So I don't want to lose sight of everybody that says some very important things from their perspective, but sometimes we get to a point where some people want to have the last word and you lose the essence. So I don't want to lose sight of this. Some very important thing. At the end of the day, we're here now. And as someone said earlier, this is bigger than just us, because some of the high schools can't find their alumni. So if we're not careful, the very thing that we say we're fighting against, we're going to be feeding into, because we want people to be proud and feel good about doing what all of us do. I can sit there and talk about what I did, but that's not important right now. Right now, I'm glad to be here. I'm sitting next to a person that I probably know already, and she brought it to my attention in a very subtle way. But again, this is not about me. This is about all of us, and we got to figure out, we got to work on the how. That's all I'm saying.
Thank you, absolutely.
Karen Smith.
So I am going to move on to our bylaw and election vote postponement. So as all of you know, the original intention of this meeting was to have a vote on the bylaws. That is being postponed. Currently, the bylaws are sitting still with the president of the university and general counsel. Some additional questions, comments have come up and come out of the bylaw revision process. And so there are, at this time, some meetings that are happening behind the scenes in which we are trying to answer and, I don't want to say deal with because that sounds negative, but we are working through answering these questions, etc., because we want everyone to feel comfortable and confident as we move through this process. And we feel strongly that once we get through this process, that every week this meeting will begin to grow. I know I see two of my classmates here who joined us today, so hey. So again, we're really trying to grow the organization, and we want to be able to shift our focus from always talking about the bylaws and sort of the business into really, really thinking about how do we get people in the room? How do we get people at these events?
So two things I was just thinking about. One was in the emblem or whatever, that it's not just the District of Columbia, but somehow it represents this full idea. Because this University of the District of Columbia is an idea that grew out of some real blood, sweat, and tears. And I don't want it to just disappear. Oh, we'll give you a little FCC over here. I don't want that. I want it to be into when my grandchildren say, oh yeah, see, my mom's thing is in there still, in the emblem. And people who went here should be able to look at a symbol, see themselves in the symbol, not just one that was made. Because when we were in Federal City College, we had to fight our way through to stay in there. Because lots of folks didn't want us to stay there. But we did, and we prevailed, and so
Believe
that's
me, all
meaning.
of us
That
will
has.
I'm going to offer this,
Yes.
and then I'm going to turn it over to Bernard. So prior to coming to UDC, I was actually at Georgia Southern University. While I was at Georgia Southern University, it merged with Armstrong University. So for me, I fully and firmly understand in a way that perhaps other directors of alumni affairs may not, because I have been at the meetings when you're telling alum, your institution doesn't exist, your alumni association doesn't exist. So, and I offer that to say, I get it, because I saw it happening. I was at those meetings where alum were literally leaving in tears because they felt like their institution was simply being wiped away. So I firmly understand the sentiment. But I also do understand the sentiment that the institution that stands today is still the University of the District of Columbia. And so what we need to work on, and what we've all kind of mentioned, and then we're going to move on from this topic so we can stay on track with our agenda, what we all need to work on is doing what has been mentioned already, is how do we fold in and ensure that the legacy, all 6 of them, because see, we're not even counting all the institutions that make up the law school, that all the legacies of this institution are consistently captured and taught. Because those are 2 different things, that they are captured and that they are taught to students. Because that's what's the most important piece, is that, you know, in 40 years, when, you know, there are no longer any living minor teacher college alum, it's still more important that the students know that legacy than just being able to look up and make sure that the seal for minor teachers college got put on a t-shirt to give you that immediate warm and fuzzy. You know what I mean? So that's the goal. That's the ultimate goal. So with that being said, we're going to move on.
One last question. Do we know who started each institution? Do we know who started Federal City College? Do we know who started Antioch? Do we know?
It's in the book.
It's in the book. Okay, great.
Yes, it's in the book. And what I'll do is, once the meeting ends, I will go and grab, we only have a few of them left, but I will grab a couple copies of the 160th book that does detail the history so you can look at it. I can't, I'm telling you now, we don't have enough. I cannot just give them to you.
You need to make sure they get one.
But but I want to make sure that you see the book and that you do know, again, that that information is being captured, okay? Alrighty. With that being said, we'll move on, and I'm going to turn it over to Bernard.
Those books were $100 for donation to go to the Alumni Association.
So people always ask, how can they get involved? They want to give, they want to be a part of the Alumni Society. This is that time. It's the volunteer call. We're coming up on commencement. So first and foremost, shout out to the graduating class of 2019, 5 Words for Life, 5 Words for Life, 5 There are 904 projected graduates for this year. That's another great year for graduates coming out of the university.
We have one in the room.
So currently, we need volunteers. We're trying to have a presence at every senior class meeting that is left for this year. The next senior class meeting will be on April the 5th at the Community College Multipurpose Room. Community College is located at 801 North Capitol Northeast. They are going to be in the room setting up at 2:30. The meeting actually starts at 3. On April the 6th, there'll be a senior class meeting here at Van Ness in 44A02 at 11:30 a.m. The third senior class meeting is May the 3rd, again at the Community College Multipurpose Room, 3 o'clock. That's 801 North Capitol. And the last one will be here May the 4th at the Van Ness Building, 41A02 at 11:30 a.m. Again, we are trying to have an alumni presence. One of the things that I can say for myself, we do very well, we don't do anything else well, is being present for our senior class graduates, helping them through the process. Commencement is a very, very long day. If you are actually involved with this commencement, it's like 3 days long, because it takes 2 days to set up the place for everybody to come through and come in and everything look like it went flawless. But we need volunteers for April 5th, April 6th, May the 3rd, and May the 4th. So,
if you're interested, please email me, and then I'll send you all the information, because it is a situation, I will add, that we cannot have everyone come. We're only kind of, I don't want to say allowed, but we can only have like 3 or 4 people at that.
so that's not a lot of volunteers.
So that's why it's not.
Look to your right, that's 3 of you right there. So also in the celebratory fashion of commencement, what we've also done is use that as rehearsal. So the better part, I guess that's why it's 3 days long. The rehearsal starts on Thursday. So on May the 9th, we're going to do a senior class toast. The Office of Alumni Affairs has so graciously promised me to continue the legacy of doing something great for the seniors. We're in the process of getting champagne glasses for them. We're probably gonna go over the oath or practice the oath the day before we actually have to take the oath to invite them into the Alumni Society. 904 alumni, just that fast, 904. So we're gonna have a champagne toast with them. We're working on having some key speakers that are already UDC, Federal City, Washington Tech, where we can find great alums that want to come and participate and volunteer. Please call Alex because we're asking for everybody's help to end out a great fiscal year for the university and for the Alumni Society. Yes, ma'am.
On that particular activity, whereas everything else is just 3 or 4, isn't that an activity from the UDC National Alumni Society? So wouldn't you want everybody who can attend?
That's the last class meeting. That's not the first.
But I'm saying you said it as an activity. Before that, you said it's going to be about 3 or 2 or 3 of them. But this is one is a different one that you want all.
Yes, that's commencement rehearsal.
So you will get that information out to all alumni to be there.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And it's being since we're not in an officer stage at this time.
Yes, ma'am.
My question becomes then who is going to lead that?
Oh, wow. Actually, that's why we have the partnership. Because of what you just said, we have to let the Office of Alumni Affairs take the lead.
So you will be leading that toast?
No. We will
that's
be
good.
inviting, and yes.
Okay, for the toast, we haven't made a decision on who's going to lead the toast.
But I'm throwing that on there, so when you do it, don't think lightly, think very deeply as to who you will get to lead that.
We'll take all names and recommendations.
Yeah, so for that event, the objective is to actually invite an alum in to speak at that event. One of the issues right now that it's not an issue, but one of the things that we're working through is where exactly the event will take place, because with 900 graduating students, capacity becomes a bit of an issue in where exactly we can have the event to make sure that we can absolutely open it up to as many alum who also want to attend. We have talked about just simply doing it up on the plaza because we don't have a capacity issue there, but the only issue with that is if it rains. And so we're trying to figure out, is it better to leave it in the auditorium and just invite everyone to kind of mix mingle and then come back into the auditorium for a more formal kind of program? Or does it make more sense to, because the law school's graduation will be coming up, they already had a tent that they put outside. Like, I know I've been told that Jackie used to do this when she was here, and do alumni parties out there up under the tent. But so we're working on what is the capacity, because knowing that we just have so many students now that will be graduating, it's an issue of where exactly the event is going to happen, but it will be open.
How in the past, how many have we had?
The students or the volunteers?
Students.
Oh man, the last couple of years, it has always peaked at about 1,000.
Really?
At least the last 4 years we've had no less than 900.
To come to the toast?
No.
So this is the first time we get to actually have a toast.
So to come to rehearsal, it's actually around 500 students.
Okay.
But but even still, seated in the auditorium, you can have that many people, and you can have more than that in there. But the problem becomes come out of the auditorium, have the more, mixed mingle piece. That's our issue. Okay. Is because the technical capacity of the space isn't for all the people who can actually come in and sit physically in the auditorium. So if you tell them, oh, you gotta come. Plus, we cannot have food or drink in the auditorium. Ms. Patches would have my neck. So that's the piece. That's the piece that we're working out right now. So as soon as those little details are figured out, they're big.
What's the capacity of your gym?
The gym bleachers don't work. They're being repaired.
Oh, Jesus, okay.
Yeah.
And they can't?
So it would be standing.
Oh.
In the gym. Well,
if
yeah,
necessary, it could be used, but it would be standing, and they have a cover for the floor. It's just that there wouldn't be any real bleachers.
Yeah. So that's our biggest issue with that event right now. Is capacity.
Okay, so that's the senior class now.
Did you say those dates again?
Oh, yes, ma'am. April the 5th at 801 North Capitol in the multipurpose room at 3 o'clock. April the 6th here at Van Ness Building 44, AO2 at 11:30. May the 3rd, back at North Capitol, CC Multi-Purpose Room at 3 o'clock. And here again at Van Ness in 44 AO2 at 11:30. Next, we will move on now on your agenda to upcoming events. I guess I have to leave the Jubilee. So, as Alex stated earlier, we're going back to the Jubilee being its own individual event. We don't want them to have to share such a special occasion with those honorees that are here for commencement. So this year we're celebrating the District of Columbia Teachers College class of 1969. It's their 50th reunion. So right now the invitations have been sent out to all of the honorees and all of their guests. On May the 5th, if you are interested and would like to buy a ticket, we will open up invites to everybody else open to the Alumni Society who wants to come and be a part of that great event. Yes, ma'am.
Say what you think. Now, this is what I'm reading up here. Those who will be made for, is going to open to the public on April the 8th.
Oh, so I put the wrong date.
Oh, okay.
No, that's just me. I wrote that down.
Sorry.
Help me out.
No, you helping me.
Okay. So it's on May the 4th.
Yes, ma'am.
The tickets become open to the public on April the 8th.
Good.
And it's for DC teachers. And explain why it's the class of 69 and it's not all the other schools, because there was there 69 class out of?
DC Teachers College is the only class that
That's
had a
but people
graduation
need to
year.
hear that. To
Yes.
understand history.
Yep.
There was no other school.
There was nobody else who had a
So
graduation.
nobody's been left off.
Exactly.
Okay,
We actually-
but you have to say that.
Yep, no, we pulled, that's how I know we have so many yearbooks, because I pulled the Federal City yearbook from the archive just to triple check myself that they did not have a graduate. I'm saying, this is important to me, to make sure. Also, just a quick aside, the reason why that event does not open up to the public is because the 50th reunion class has first priority to attend the event. So we don't open up tickets, and they also attend at no cost. So we don't open it up because that event takes place in this room, and again, capacity. So we have to cap the tickets, and so that's why that event is not just open for everyone.
And we have invited all remaining living alumni from minors teachers and
How many know?
For minors, so far, I've been told that there are 11. Wilson, I'm still waiting for the final number.
Okay.
But I already know of those groups, not all of them travel.
Right.
So we knew that that would be a small group, and we also obviously are offering them tickets at no cost.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's important to know. Put all of it out there. Okay.
But that was the second year for Federal City College.
Uh-huh.
Federal City College opened September 1968.
Got a graduating class in 68?
No. It was
But
their,
that's what-
it was
that's the whole thing we're
their
saying.
first year, and the charter class that we were in was 1972.
Got you. That's when they had their first
That was
graduation?
their first graduating class.
So when we get 50 years outside of 72, y'all come. There it is.
she's right.
Now, a question somebody just said this. Now, law school is made up of 3 schools, and we just talking about it. One of them is Antioch. What's the other one?
It's Antioch, and for a very brief stint, there was the Washington, I think it was the Washington School of Law, or the
Okay.
District of Columbia, before it officially became a part of UDC. But that, correct me if I'm wrong, trustees, that was, only like
that.
a year or two.
I think it's-
Yeah,
that-
but it
several
did
of them
exist.
Okay.
they were
So my
about to
question
collapse.
is, the reason I'm asking,
Yes.
did you all read back and see who came out of Antioch in 69?
So currently,
Go ahead.
the law school has its own director of alumni affairs.
Did I say no more?
Yep.
Right there.
They will do their own event. They had actually asked us point blank to not reach out to some of
And
them.
that's a bone of
But
contention.
that's
Okay, I tell you, I said she could stop right there. She already caught it. When she said they got their own director, they doing their whatever their own thing, and she done already said, they asked her, don't touch 69. So I'm with you, but this is information. Don't let us walk out of here without knowing, because we leave it up to our minds to fill in the blanks.
Yes.
And it ain't always good what we fill in.
Absolutely.
I have to go back to, even though the slides are different, I have to make sure we touch on everything. On April the 10th here at the university, there'll be a career fair in the student center. It's open to everyone, and that will be from 1 to 5. You know anyone that might be looking for a job right now, we have 100 recruiters and companies that are coming into the university to hire alum and grads, to hire alum and students on the public too, but it's open to the public. Again, one more time, from 1 p.m. to 5 p.m. on April the 10th in the student center. Now, getting back on track to what you see on the screen, we already talked about. Yes, ma'am.
Really quick with that job fair. So one of the most exciting things that we have coming out of that is Pepsi will be there. As you all know, we recently partnered with Pepsi to be the university beverage provider. With that, Pepsi has given us an opportunity to hire an alum to work for Pepsi. This is an exclusive opportunity only to the University of the District of Columbia, and that only UDC alum who obtained degrees in any predecessor institution, who obtained a degree from the institution, is eligible to apply for what will be a management training position with Pepsi. So at the job fair, they will actually be there on that day. If you are not able to attend, you can please email me your resume and we will ensure that you are reviewed. This is also a really awesome opportunity for brand new graduates because Pepsi is not hiring until June. So granted, if you're walking across the stage in May completing your degree, and I say that only because if you are walking across the stage with any credits left to complete, you have not technically earned your bachelor's degree yet, and you are therefore not eligible to apply. But everyone else in that graduating class will be eligible to apply for this position. Now, also keep in mind, because this is an exclusive opportunity only for this university, we are not shouting it from the rooftops. We're more like shouting it from the sidewalk. Because Pepsi has asked us to keep it just a little hush because it isn't something that they give to every institution that they partner with. So they didn't want to have themselves in a situation where, you know, other institutions are coming and saying, oh, well, you gave them this opportunity, so you need to give it to us as well.
You know you're on YouTube, right?
I do, but it's a private link. So only our alumni actually got the link.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am. We make sure of that too.
No, they wanted to.
Thank you. Commencement is May 11th. As I'm saying, I need volunteers first. Come, I need you to come help. Congresswoman Maxine Willis has been chosen to be the commencement speaker this year. I think that's going to be a good time. So, you know, you'd like to see her, you'd like to see some of your family and friends graduate. Please think of the Alumni Society first. We need your help. We passing out stuff, putting people in line. Helping graduates put the Catholic gowns on. It's a long day. It's enough for everybody to do something to help the university on its biggest day. So please call us, let us know if you're able to volunteer and help us with your time. In that vein, the Alumni Society once again has partnered with the Office of Alumni Affairs to bring you guys at the Night Out with the Nationals. This year it'll be on May 17th. We have the link for you guys to be able to go to and purchase your tickets at this time. We are trying to create a better partnership with the Nationals. The Nationals wants us to be able to come out every year and have our own University of the District of Columbia night. We've done the research. There are other schools in this region that do this night, and it's just a wonderful time, and it's something that we want to do. We have to guarantee that 1,000 people will come out in the future, so this is a bit of a pilot program where we have to get these 100 seats sold so we can have real conversations with them and how we can do better things as we move forward. Again, that's May 17th. This event is near and dear to my heart because I'm you all's representative back to the DC HBCU Alliance. I have to go to a meeting to represent you guys once a month on things that are going on. What happens with this partnership, this is one of the greatest partnerships that we've had that is a revenue generator through the events in the partnership. This 5K, which is on June the 29th, for every one of us that registers and takes a part in the race, we get what's called a group share. They actually pay us money back for our scholarship fund. Last year we raised about $3,000 and we only had about 50 people participate. Howard crushes this group every year. Howard walks away with checks for $40,000 to $50,000. There is no reason that we are in the same town. We cannot compete with them to a higher level. The only downfall of it has been participation. We have done our best to get the word out and get those involved. So it does not have to be you. You can pay for somebody else to go. The point of it is for all of us to be able to participate through registration with this event to actually get actual cash dollars that we've given back to be able to put back into our park. So something to think about. And again, the date for that is June 29th. If you have any questions about this race, please feel free to contact myself or Alex. So this is the last meeting until July. We're in recess. So all of our hard work for the year, everybody's participation is great. You know, hard work, long Saturdays. Thank you guys for everything and picking up the mantle to get us through basically another academic year.
So this is the last meeting?
This is our last academic year meeting, yes ma'am. We have one in July and one we'll do, Burns, why you let me do that? Man, so you have worked very, very hard for y'all. So this is the last meeting of the year. Will be the barbecue that we're having for alumni friends and family.
Actually,
So,
that's the kickoff for the meeting. It's August.
no, we come back we come out of recess in September. It's September. Yeah, almost.
Technically October, because our fiscal year starts in October.
And
So-
then in September.
Yeah, it ends in September. And I'm also, okay, sorry, just really quickly, I'm really excited. We had a great conversation with President Mason, and so one of the things that we're going to be working on starting in October is he's going to start coming to some of our meetings because we thought that it was really important that he start getting more engaged with our alumni, so we're excited about that. In October, though, the first one will actually be someone from Student Success, because one of the things that we want to start doing at these meetings is really helping you stay updated on getting into what's really going on at the university. So we're looking for someone out of admissions to come and talk about the incoming freshman class, but it's also going to be an opportunity to keep you updated on the equity imperative. So that is the university strategic plan, and so there's a lot in there about recruitment for the university, retention for the university. What are we doing to support our students? Things that I know based on other conversations that I've had with alum, you're interested in and you want to know what are we doing. So we're going to start bringing folks like that in from the university side to give brief presentations as a part of the meetings.
Question. When you do orientation for new incoming students, is it done as a large group?
Yes.
It is done as a large group.
Yes.
Are we invited just to hear it? I'm just throwing it out there.
I will ask. I will ask. I don't know that it's an open event.
Okay, I like when they said that. I like that. And the only reason I'm saying that, here you have another opportunity to connect with everybody. That it's up to us looking like you choose to come. It's free, and there's no issue we can have because we through. We're not coming in. We finished. But to hear what the young people are being told, introduced to, that would be a good way for us to know what orientation is like in 2019 versus some of us like keeping it that. Okay? It's different.
The administration set up a new process for orientation, a new program where they had incentivized the freshmen. They're trying to make sure they graduate. So they're putting them in groups and they're giving them a real powerful pep rally. Now it's held in the student center upstairs. And there is a seating capacity, but it goes on all over the building. So what's going on, you can see. How much you can really do is different, but it's a great show. There's a lot of effort to energize the class, a lot of commitment to knowing who you're supposed to talk to when you don't know which way to go, and all those kinds of things. But sure, come and see. I came on the humble. That's why
I'm just saying, I don't know.
If
So
you wanna
will you
come.
send out your email blast?
Yes.
Or, and are you texting us too?
So we're going to work on that. One of my projects over the summer is determine how many cell phone numbers we have so that we can start. Because it's not expensive, but it isn't cheap. And we have to have the minimum number is like 1,000 numbers. And the last time we did it, we only had about 300 confirmed cell phone numbers.
Okay.
So, but we're getting there. We're getting there.
Okay, but my question is, you all text to the university kids at all?
No.
You all really texting it in?
Not currently.
Ah, okay.
I'm back.
But good idea. Someone just brought it up.
First of all, this is
just like to say thank you all for coming out. This is a great showing. We're so appreciative to see alumni, especially some of our past presidents here, those from all predecessor institutions. The picnic, I just want to elaborate a little more on the cookout. The cookout is for your families and your friends, that includes your grandkids. We're going to have things for them to do. We want to bring them out. We want them to have that UDC pride spirit. And hopefully that when they get of age, they'll do just like their grandparents did, right? Come to UDC and be a firebrand. We also want to bring you up to date on a few other things. We are consistently trying to find out what we can do to encourage others to join the Alumni Association. Last year, for the first year, the board of directors, as well as myself and a few others, we put together a fund called the Academic Excellence Awards. The Academic Excellence Award recognizes the top 10 students graduating from that year. So last year during homecoming, we recognized 10 students from the graduating class with papers on the plaza. And we hope to do that again. So if you decide that you'd like to send some money, please consider the Academic Achievement Payment Program for the class of 2019. We'll be graduating. Again, it won't be put out until November? Yes. November of next year, but we need to raise the money because it's nothing that the university pays for. It comes out of our pockets. So I'll be asking you to support that. Also, if you belong to any fraternal organizations. Last year, we were able to get the Masons, the Prince Hall Masons, as well as the Grand Lodge Masons. First time in the history of the District of Columbia, first time in the history of Masonry. They celebrated their 300th anniversary here at the University of the District of Columbia. There's a statue out there that represents both of those organizations coming together for the first time in the history of Masonry. Along with that, we have 2 Grand Masters, both graduating from the class, from the business school, and they have committed to donating for $200,000 each within the next 10 years for business school. And so this year we'll be able to have a master's program, a doctorate program in business administration. So we are moving, and we need money.
Explain that a little bit more when you say 20,000. Not as individuals, but as organizations.
Both organizations, the Black Masons, the White Masons, come together.
And explain that.
200,000 each towards for UDC.
And explain what you just said something. The White Masons and the Black Masons came together.
Correct.
And I don't think most of them knew that there was one was white and one was black.
In fact,
and they're coming together.
In fact, what was so outstanding was they brought the gavel of George Washington and displayed it here on our campus.
All right.
Okay? And every year, in October, they'll be coming back to take pictures and to make a donation. I belong to the Prince Hall Masons, and last month we had the what we call the Masonic Classic, and that's what we asked you to come to that game. The money, all the money that's raised from that game goes to the University Scholarship Program and to development. So again, we really need your funds, okay? Many of us are doing many things. We've got addresses. Please make sure that Ms. Washington gets that information. And please tell folks about this cookout. Okay? Please tell folks about this cookout. We don't want to spend all this money and no one shows up. It's going to be right back someplace everybody knows. Got good parking. We're going to have stuff for the kids. We'll have stuff for you guys. Wear your t-shirts. Hopefully you can, the bookstore has some real nice stuff too. Go to the bookstore, support that bookstore. And I want to say that in the spirit, my son's company designed this Hall of Fame. I was lucky enough to be inducted this year. But if you notice, it does have all the schools' colors: the black and the gold, the red. Okay, and so all the colors are displayed, and this is kind of what we're trying to do when we do things for the university. I kind of think of everybody in mind, keep everything in mind.
I wanted to say something about we have people here, and I think it's a great idea what we did in the past. We said each one bring one.
Yes.
And if each person bring a person, you will build up your alumni.
Correct.
I'm here to say that.
And just remember, all your comments are welcome, and we want to thank you so much for all you continue to do to keep our legacy alive. God bless you.
So with that, guys, we're wrapping up early today. Are there any other last lingering questions, comments, anything for the good of the group? No?
Yeah, I got some.
Motion to adjourn. All right, guys, we are adjourned. Thank you all for coming out today, and we will see you soon.
Okay, all of you all that the Henley Award is considering turning itself into a foundation so that they can give $500 to the athletic department annually. It takes $50,000. We will be calling on Henley Award winners and graduates of all the. Lynn Henley was. He's one of our early athletes who died early. His family set up a fund to give an annual award. The oldest award given at the university is the Lynn Henley Award. And to keep it going, former Henley Award winners have united and the family to contribute and continue the legacy. Paul Cook was the founding president of it. And so over the years, we have evolved, and as the members have passed on, those of us who remaining are working on how to continue it for as long as the university continues. It's the oldest continuous award provided at the university. And it is for a graduate, coach, athlete, player, citizen whose family was entrenched in the legacy of the university. And we're in the process. We have a chance to first conversation with the alumni, with the fundraising has just begun. But they told us it takes $50,000. So we're going to try to set up an endowment that will
set up an endowment, but not 501c3.
No, 501c3 is already set.
So you want a foundation, you want an endowment. It's a difference.
There is a big
foundation is a 501c3.
No, we want an endowment that we're considering how to build an endowment that will keep this going so that we don't have to do a hat in hand every year.
Okay.
So it's been going on. And the Hall of Fame dinner will be next year, and there'll be a new class. I got you to get you to attend.
I'm knowledgeable. That's what it is. It is very important for people to speak and really do know what they're talking about. Because when they don't, it is very frustrating in the process. Because then you start to look at you like, really? Well, when you can pinpoint it out.
Good to see you.
I'm not going to.
Well, I'm not easy out.
He just went to the right. He went out that way to the right.
Probably went to see Yoshi.
I was supposed to. All right. And when you know what you want, yes, I'm back.
We got a president on us, nothing you got to I know what I know. You know, this university is not established by UDC. This university was established by we have had our own university. For a long time, that's a long time. And so we're bound to take classes and we're down to the okay? Mine was a whole class. That's how we started. So when the whole time, that's what it was. That's right. Okay. That's right. We went to the jail.
building, I work part-time, I go all.
You had me cracking up.
And that's correct.
I'm breaking up.
No, don't go anywhere. I want to finish answering.
Well, I know a lot of people that were on that committee from the. I know where I know you from. I don't get it either. And I need to talk to you and I met Hope. That's why I told me. Hope, I was working with the Bible. I get him to review those Bibles. One day, I was sitting at the coffee shop. Do you remember? He was over civil rights. I mean, even he does. Are you serious? You were talking about plays. They don't, and they don't remember. I like the last right. You should not. Oh, they need that. I said, you're supposed to call me. I don't check my email. You know what I'm saying? What's that one time? That's alumni. You don't want to stay home because you want everybody to get home. And I think that's what they're doing. You know, it's just to get the whole thing. We're not big enough to be ART by ourselves. I mean, that's what I've been in that situation. I'm a fool. How you going to make this school? When you want to when is your birthday? That took the slaves and had them to wear the Sagittarius. Judgment. You said yes. No, Gemini. Well, I'm just, I think that and as my sister, we are being selected now. My sister and I told her to do something. And we were supposed to get something from. How did you like that? So I said, I'm going back to school. My sister made it. I said, if they open that to you and I, That's what they did. Were you a student here? Okay. That's correct. That's correct. All right. I said he's brought it all out when you graduate. It's a fine school. That's a nice school. Very simple. Me? That's what I know. I said he's I talked to Karen. Yeah. You remember Karen? All right. Well, I talked to her. Okay, I just like history. I know. No, he was talking about that. We get some things done about right back to me. That's true. What I'm saying, it started with
I attended. See what happened. Then I mean, this is not. I came back to your question. And you remember the drill across the street? Some of this happened, you don't remember, before came to school.
Okay,
And so there's a whole lot of things that came to light just before that happened, and of course it was kids. So I remember things like, in DC public schools, I didn't know there was a track. Because I was,
They need to be tracked now.
that's a whole other conversation.
Look, they need to be tracked now.
No, let me finish. So it's one, because all of this has a lot of parts to it. I'm trying to keep on. But I'm seeing all these buildings, there's a lot of stuff we've got to take it away from. I think the liberal side, so I don't want humanity away from. In the discussion, I guess some of you changed the words of what you were saying. I took a sign, okay, but let's not clear. When I was president,
Oh, we didn't know. No, you all right. They must be on the street, right?
okay. And they got so you could, and they didn't want to have anything to do with 1 o'clock class and
Okay, because you're right.
there's more to this. If I brought that up, it would be a lot of back and forth.
Right.
But at the end of the day, what I'm trying to say is a lot of black schools, there was no so when Martin Luther was killed,
But we also don't have
they, for instance,
Still working on my master's. Okay, folks.
few people have asked the question, what is the criteria to become a university? So when they first started talking about federal, so their plan was to merge it. They said federal. So what you were talking about basically is a person who's a representative given non-information. For example, but at the end of the day, I don't remember all the official steps. I don't remember that. When I graduated, it was some pushback here, even after we started. So I didn't want to, and you came to some of the archives and see, so for instance, I had been volunteered in the admissions office. And one thing after another, so somebody asked me to help this. Okay, this person ran in the film on the way to my car. So this young lady was in the class. You see this class, she had to do this, she had to do that. So she interviewed me 6 straight weeks or something like that. I came to the class, I was the only one that came to the class. I don't give the guy interviews. Well, the young lady who reported before her, she reported on a guy I had not seen since 1965. So that was really new for me. But then in the meantime, they kept my information, so they didn't invite me to the class, and I didn't come. So last year, this school, I gave a lot of material, stuff that nobody else had. And some of the stuff I had that I really wanted to because of my involvement in FFC, I was telling her some of the, like I was with the first football team and all that stuff. And one day, and she's a cheerleader, she knows, so during the game, I hear somebody yelling out my name, and normally a coach just calls your last name or whatever. This guy's calling my whole name. So he does that during the football game. So it turns out to be this reporter from Africa. So he started, I said, the game's going on. So he came to see me because I was the sports editor and after the interview, he asked me.
Your name is Glenda, right?
He asked me,
I was going to tell you, T1, T5, T17.
well, the problem is you come out twice a week. So one thing led to another. They hired me right for that. So
This is under Dr. Rollard. Down for. Oh no, I'm thinking about the Washington reform. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So all I'm saying is that there's a whole lot of pieces that I can't give you the specifics. But at the end of the day, that's not it. The bigger issue is some of the things we were told during that time. A lot of us, not us in this room, a lot of us have got their reading. We were told about guarding our history. and we still turn our district over to others. This is up to us. So with all due respect, please don't take this to me. Do not let people get caught up playing with your feelings because your issue is legitimate. And so some people, I'm trying to keep this short, but that's part of my background is dealing with stuff like this. And I'm not saying that I know everything, but from the stuff that I learned from, like, the guy who mentored me before they even called it mentoring, when we were down at T1 registry, so you said was trying to do the registration wasn't as crazy as when I went to Alabama. But then, of course, the issue was, for a guy, if you weren't in school, you would go straight to Vietnam. T1, T7. Yeah, that was what the selective service did. These guys went straight to Vietnam. So this guy popped out of his office and said, anybody got any questions? And I raised my hand, and I said, blah, blah, blah. If I'm back in school now, do I need to call? He said, if they don't call you, don't you call them? And he just stayed, and I saw him every day. And then when he got his big break, he started writing me and calling me and said, so he hired me to work out in Texas Southern University. And it just went on from there. So then, eventually, when I started taking classes, all the stuff that people were telling me started lining up. So I'm sharing it. I'm not trying to make it. So what I'm saying is people are playing games with many of us. And a lot of us, I didn't like the song, but Russell and Roland Kirk had the song. I like the title. Volunteer slavery. A lot of us have become volunteer slaves. So you on the point, and don't let anybody take their foot. The last few days, I'm gonna say something, get another saying. The last few days, I've been trying to help out. You know, DC had to come on, so my father's the last one. She's been hospitalized, so it's always simple. Is me telling my sisters and brothers, this is what they need, but don't go over there and visit right now. This is not a good time to visit. Well, one of my sisters turned that whole thing around and got her daughter arguing with people and they made up prayer. So you got a whole lot of in my book of poetry that I'm trying to publish. Like some of the poems started when I was just as I was leaving Fairfield City. But one of the poems I wrote was for the grown-ups that started in Milwaukee. See that? I'll be right back.
So this is God speaking to me. I'll be back. So I'm ready to go. Okay. You okay?
So what I'm saying is, how you doing?
Finding everything that I want upstairs. Oh, okay.
But all I'm trying to say is,
so it's
I was able to do stuff just for me. To this day, there's a guy with an infomercial. And he's charging people all this money for stuff that I don't know.
wow. Okay. I'll see you. Okay. Okay, too. Okay. Because it was Professor Howard Cole, it was Ben Osborne, Raja Hilu, not Pakistan, the Jewish Community Counseling. There was, he was from Palestine. There was a host of other professors. Al Mosley, did you know that? Al Mosley? I'm trying to think, Dr. Baltimore. All of those people, those are my mentors. And, when they start talking about merging, those people were in the fight, and they told me at the I was so upset.
Let me throw you this too. Put federal city on the side for me. And UDC on the side for me. I work with polls and pretty sure it's kind of just giving out literature. So I can hear what people are saying. So let's figure if somebody drive up, it's cold outside. So let's say the husband is letting his wife out the car, however that works out. I can hear what people are saying. There's a lot of people that wouldn't vote because some guys wouldn't vote for Hillary Clinton because she was a woman. Some guys were voting for Trump because he's a man, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So there's a whole lot of things that we were taught during the time we were here. Some of it happened here, some of it happened elsewhere, and a lot of us have gotten amnesia. I mean, some of the stuff, you know, I'm saying this as a joke and it's not funny. You know Fantasia.
Yes.
So I don't,
The singer from
so I don't like reality shows. But I was channel surfing one day, and she was just running around just right after she had the baby by the guy she met in T-Mobile. So she ran around. But in the background, her grandma was sitting up there rocking in the rocking chair. And she just ran around finally just before the police, her grandmother said, "Girl, please. Some of us need their grandmother." My grandmother, both of my, but my father's mother is very rock solid. But I got mad at my grandfather one day and I broke the great rule, you don't punch your mouth out and talk about your breath. So I was walking away from him. Now, so my grandmother had, and my she's some kind of way, my back ended up against the wall. And she said, and she never touched me. And she said, okay, one more word out of you, you get ready to cure all my arthritis. I didn't know what arthritis was, but I got this message. So I'm saying, everybody, so think about, just from a historical standpoint, something, I was participating in a program at my church, and it was a Black History program, and I wrote a statement, and I didn't realize that it would be true right now. When you look at the news, they talk about millennials and baby boomers, but they totally eliminated the behind us generation. They don't even, so we were worried about genocide, and that's what's happening right now. I'm taking the time to talk to y'all. I ain't trying to get my flirt on. This is real stuff. This is real.
That's why they bring it up and chaperone behind this and killing people like and they're making money. It's really something that
Journalism was my mind. So I look at this stuff differently. But there's certain things we already know. When I go to the gym, I see people paying a trainer for stuff if they did their chores at home, they wouldn't have to pay a trainer. But they refuse to do it because it ain't cool. So one of the points I wrote and I upgraded a little bit. The name of the poem is Cool Ain't Cool. We got too many people trying to prove that they're cool. So if we're not like we'll be talking. But if we're not willing to be ourselves, we don't expect the kids to be.
and it's right for them to keep up.
And no, thank you so much. Because I wasn't sure what I was explaining this.
I just love the way you came out passionate and you stuck with it.
That's the good news.
That's the good news.
What you did, you made yourself vulnerable by talking. Soon, you made yourself vulnerable by talking to feelings. Okay, so one of the poems I wrote is a Christian poem called I Believe. But the devil only needs you to believe. So there was nothing wrong. See, in other words, let me take it away from you. When we're in a meeting,
So the Scott
you're supposed to give a person an opportunity to say what they got to say. And it doesn't need to be a debate. But these things are being modeled during the presidential presentations or political presentations.
Oh,
well, yeah.
The UDCNAS Alumni.
Because somebody from South
So,
Carolina can say,
that's what the model
and
is.
my parents swear to God, they didn't,
But-
they didn't have nobody in the
The issue you
Yeah,
raised,
my grandfather
you mispronounced the word, she mispronounced the word.
Okay.
That should be the worst, not bad, but the essence of what you said was, and I'm gonna paraphrase, the guy who made the presentation was not representing, he was
My
eliminating.
grandfather was from like
And you wanted the us's.
So, and I don't know where it's at.
And that's a legitimate concern. No. Over time, because I'm the vice president of my civic association, how many times have I been in the meeting?
Would anyone still here like fruit or veggies to take home?
Yes.
Or sandwiches?
Yes.
I'll take the fruit.
All right.
How many yeses do that qualify?
That qualifies.
My grandfather.
Yes.
All of that.
Yes, yes to everything.
Yes, to everything. So it's they were
Please come up with what it's got to do.
Alex, I'm gonna shoot you the rest of the information.
Okay.
And then whatever you do is fine with me. Just send me the finished copy that way I can.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I won't be here part of next week. I will be in the office this week on Friday, just so you try to call me, I'm not gonna be there. There you go. Somebody who knows. Oh, excuse me.
No, absolutely